The stench of sulfur and burnt pork hits you before you even open your eyes. You are lying face down in black grit that sticks to your skin like wet cement. You look to your left, an empty foxhole. You look to your right, another empty hole. Out of a marine company of 240 healthy boys who stepped off the boats, exactly 18 are left holding a rifle. The rest are gone, swallowed by the black sand. You check your M1. The bolt is jammed with volcanic ash. You scrape it out with bleeding fingers, listening to the muffled thud of artillery landing somewhere in the fog. The brass told us this would be a quick walk in the sun, a neat, tidy mop-up job, a promised 5-day stroll. You wipe the grease from your eyes and look at the mountain. It is waiting. Down in the cramped holds of the transport ships, guys are eating hot chow, swapping smokes, and playing cards on their footlockers, while above them, the greatest armada in history prepares to wipe a tiny island off the map. 100,000 United States Marines, 700 warships stretching across the Pacific Ocean as far as a man can see. The mood is incredibly light. The brass promised us this chunk of rock would fall in 5 to 10 days. They were so confident, they actually cut the pre-invasion naval bombardment from 10 days down to just 3. We figured those big 14-inch guns on the battleships had pulverized every square inch of the place. Nothing could breathe after that kind of pounding. We had already taken Tarawa, the Marshall Islands, the Marianas, and Peleliu. The Japanese Empire was bleeding out, and we were the boys sent to finish the job. Major General Clifton Cates even joked that if he knew the name of the man on the extreme right of the right-hand squad, he would recommend him for a medal before we even went in. You sit in the Higgins boat, listening to the diesel engines rumble, watching the naval shells light up the horizon. The officers tell you it's just a matter of walking ashore and counting the bodies. You check your canteens, adjust your steel pot, and wait for the ramp to drop. You expect a barren wasteland of craters. You expect a broken enemy. With thousands of tons of high explosives dropped on a tiny speck of dirt, you truly believe the hard work is already done. 3 days from now, we will be drinking cold beer. Troops ashore and moving to isolate volcano. Resistance moderate, but terrain awful. That was the message Colonel Harry Liversedge radioed back to the fleet on the morning of February 19th, 1945. D-Day. You step off the landing craft and your boots immediately sink past your ankles. This is not sand. It is loose, coarse, volcanic ash. You try to run, but it is like trying to sprint through a bin of dry wheat. And there is a terrace of this black grit 15 feet high staring you in the face. Men and machines are getting bogged down right at the waterline. The beach is eerily quiet. No machine guns, no mortars, just the sound of waves and thousands of boots struggling in the ash. It feels wrong. The hair on the back of your neck stands up. You look up at the towering shadow of Mount Suribachi. It feels like 1,000 eyes are looking down at you. Behind you, the Navy just keeps pushing more guys and bulldozers onto the beach. It is getting crowded. Tracked landing vehicles, the LVTs, are spinning their treads, digging themselves deeper into the muck. The invasion plan said we would secure airfield number 1 by noon. But right now, you cannot even walk 10 paces without stopping to catch your breath. The silence stretches on. It is a heavy, suffocating quiet. You are stuck on an open beach with nowhere to hide, packed in shoulder to shoulder with your buddies. You are standing exactly where the enemy wants you. The second hand on your watch ticks past 10 in the morning. $22,500 naval shells fired in the first hour of the assault. It did not matter. The Japanese artillery opens up and the sky falls on us. They have every inch of the beach dialed in. The coordinates are pre-registered. You press your face into the black dirt while shrapnel slices the air above your helmet. The 28th Marine Regiment is trying to isolate Suribachi, but guys are dropping left and right. 5,300 Marines become casualties in just the first 3 days. The weather turns. A cold rain mixes with the volcanic dust, creating a gritty paste that coats everything. It gets inside the action of your M1 rifle. It jams the automatic weapons. Suddenly, your squad is trying to fight off an unseen enemy with guns that only fire single shots. You have to manually rack the bolt after every pull of the trigger. Out on the water, things are going wrong too. On D+2, kamikazes break through the fighter screens and sink an escort carrier. The brass has to pull the 3rd Marines out of reserve way earlier than planned. You are cold, you are wet, and your hands are bleeding from clearing weapon stoppages. You dig a hole, but the loose ash just slides back in. You cannot get deep enough. The artillery shells keep raining down, precise and deadly. Your gun is jammed. The naval fire support is hitting empty dirt, and you are losing your friends just to move forward a few feet. We measure the advance not by miles, but by the number of dog tags collected before sundown. How do you kill an army that does not exist on the surface of the earth? By D+6, we are pushing into the eastern side of the island. The guys call it the meat grinder. We are no longer measuring progress in touchdowns. 100 yards is a miracle. You crawl forward, waiting for a tank to blast a pillbox, only to watch the Sherman get knocked out by anti-tank guns hidden in the rocks. We capture a Japanese soldier, Hideo Momoda. The intelligence he gives the officers makes your blood run cold. He talks about a Naval Air Station headquarters bunker that holds 800 men. He says they have 500 drums of fuel and water down there. They are not sitting in shallow trenches. They have built an entire city underground. Japanese soldiers like Okoshi Harunori are ordered to stay in their caves. Okoshi later said that if you played dead on the surface, American trucks and tanks would drive right over you, leaving you to gurgle until you died. So they stay below. You realize the 5 to 10 day promise was a bitter joke. Every time you clear a pillbox with a flamethrower or a satchel charge, another sniper pops out from a spider hole right behind you. The claustrophobia sets in. You are walking over thousands of men who are waiting in the dark. The ground beneath your boots feels hollow. You hear muffled voices through the vents in the rock. We brought a sledgehammer to smash a fortress, but we are just pounding the roof of an anthill. And the ants are waiting for us to sleep. The sharp metallic ping of an empty M1 clip ejecting cuts through the low moan of the wind. You stare at the dirt. It is February 28th. According to the original plan, today is the day we were supposed to be back on the ships, drinking hot coffee and heading home. Instead, General Graves Erskine gets the order. General Schmidt is sending the 3rd Division straight into the center. Airfield number 2 is taken, but the line is stalled. We are bogged down at Hill 362A, B, and C. The guys around you have the 1,000-yard stare. Combat fatigue. Their eyes are hollow, their faces caked in a mixture of sweat, oil, and volcanic dust. Nobody talks about the plan anymore. A 19-year-old private in your platoon quietly crawls over to a dead lieutenant. He reaches out, unpins the officer's bars, and slips them into his own pocket. He is taking command of the squad now. Every officer and non-commissioned officer above him is either dead or on a hospital ship. He doesn't say a word. He just checks his weapon and looks at the ridge ahead. The sun beats down on the rocks. The smell of decaying bodies is so thick you can taste it in your canteen water. You realize this is not a battle you win by outsmarting the other guy. It is just a slow, grinding exchange of flesh for dirt. The private looks at his watch. It is day 10. He tightens his helmet strap, picks up his rifle, and points toward the jagged rocks of Cushman's pocket. The only way off this island is straight through the meat grinder. 3,000 dead, 13,000 wounded. That is the American Butcher's Bill by D+12. The numbers do not even make sense anymore. It is midnight on March 7th. You are huddled in a shallow hole near Tachiwa Point, trying to stay awake. The darkness is absolute. Suddenly, the night rips open. Captain Inoue Samaji leads 1,500 Japanese soldiers out of the shadows. It is a massive banzai charge. But they do not have enough rifles. They are coming at us with sharpened bamboo spears. Some of them are wearing explosive vests, ready to turn themselves into human bombs. You grip your rifle, your hands shaking, and fire blindly into the screaming silhouettes. The illumination shells pop overhead, casting long, dancing shadows across a scene of pure madness. Guys are fighting hand-to-hand in the mud, using entrenching tools and bayonets. The Zippo Sherman flame-throwing tanks roll up, shooting thick streams of liquid fire into the dark. The smell of roasting flesh makes you gag. By morning, the ground is covered with bodies. The Japanese are running out of food, water, and ammunition, but they refuse to quit. They are drinking muddy water from puddles and fighting over scraps. The rules of war do not exist here anymore. It is just tired men tearing at each other in the dark. The brass in Washington drew up their neat charts and timelines, but they never factored in this kind of fanatical devotion. You sit among the smoking craters as the sun rises, looking at the bodies piled in front of your fighting hole. The generals promised a 5-day campaign, but the calendar just flipped to week 3. Each man should think of his defense position as his graveyard. Fight until the last and inflict much damage to the enemy. That was the order from Lieutenant General Kuribayashi Tadamichi. Down in the dirt, you finally understand the math of this island. We came with 100,000 men and unlimited firepower. We calculate war in tons of high explosives, naval bombardments, and supply chains. Kuribayashi had 21,000 men, and he calculated war in human sacrifices. He knew he was cut off from Tokyo. He knew no ships were coming to save him. On March 23rd, he sent his final message to the garrison at Chichijima. He apologized to his emperor for losing the island, but took comfort in the heavy damages he inflicted on us. You sit in your foxhole, eating a cold ration, feeling a strange, bitter respect for the guys in those caves. They were told to die, and they did. Hideo Momoda and a few others surrendered, realizing it was better to live for a future Japan than to die like rats underground. But they were the rare exception. The intelligence officers back at the fleet measured the island's defenses in concrete and steel. They measured the guns and the bunkers, but they completely misjudged the human will. Kuribayashi knew he could not win this battle, but his goal was never victory. His goal was to make the American doughboy bleed so much that our leaders would lose the stomach to ever set foot on the Japanese mainland. You stare at the blood dried beneath your fingernails. The island is supposedly ours, but the dying is not finished. The cold ocean breeze sweeps over Mount Suribachi, carrying the faint smell of cordite. It is March 26th, D+35. 25 days past the deadline. A final group of 200 to 300 Japanese soldiers poured out of Bloody Gorge this morning, hitting Airfield No. 2 in one last desperate wave. Now, it is over. You sit exhausted on the black ash. You pull a dirty, mud-stained handkerchief from your pocket and carefully wrap up the dog tags of the guys from your squad who are not going home. The final tally is a heavy weight on your chest. 23,000 American casualties, almost 7,000 Marines dead. We took more casualties than the 19,000 Japanese who died defending this rock. Only 216 of them surrendered. You look up at the sky. A massive B-29 bomber touches down on the runway we just paid for with oceans of blood. You tie the handkerchief tight, close your eyes, and listen to the engines.